Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, president and founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand-Up. So without any further ado, let's get started. It's Friday, and I thought it would be a good idea this Friday, once again, to do an agile, not so agile topic. So today I want to talk about the 6 common factors that motivate people. This is a hard topic for me because I feel like even though sometimes we hate to admit that some of these things motivate us, in the end, sometimes things do. And I think that if you look at what your goals are and you consider what your driving force behind them is, that sometimes you'll see things that motivate people more than others. And I think where I'm trying to go with this is that not all of these motivations should be motivating factors. But unfortunately, because we're all carnal, because we are all in a carnal state, some of these become motivating factors. So, truth is, we'll start with number one, and number one's probably the one that's the most obvious to you: money and rewards. It's just, if somebody says, hey, if you do this, you can have this, it naturally drives us in that direction. Now, I'm not saying that this is a good way to think. I think that chasing down success and trying to be successful is a very positive thing. And I don't think that money necessarily is the root of all evil. I think the love of money is the root of all evil. There are a lot of people who have a lot of money who do a lot of good things, right? But there are also a lot of people who I've witnessed in my own personal life through travel that have nothing, that are completely happy. I remember when we were in the Dominican Republic, and my sons and I were brought to a house, and we were going to pour concrete floors in this home. And when I say home, it was probably a total of about 800 square feet. It was tiny. It was just a real tiny area, and they had no concrete floors. It was all dirt. So we framed it all out, and we literally mixed concrete in buckets, and we started a bucket brigade to pour the buckets in, and we used a 2x4 that we found to smooth out the floor. And there was a little boy who cried, and he says, grandma, he says, does this mean that I'll finally be able to bounce my rubber ball on the cement and see what happens? And it was something so simple, right? But it taught me that even the people who are the most poor can have great joy. So our money and rewards tend to motivate us or drive us. Sometimes the happiest people are the people without. So it's just food for thought. Money and rewards are something that we can go after if we're using it and applying it to what we're trying to do. Because, success needs to be a journey and not a destination. We need to figure out how to get there. And we need to be focused on the progress that we're making. And we need to strive to do what we can to make a difference. And that leads me to number two. Number two is desire to be the best at what you do. I think of Usain Bolt. Oh my goodness, that's a good example, right? He not only hates losing, but I've seen so many times where he, embraces or shakes the hand of the person at starting blocks or talks to them. I think of professional boxers who work so hard every single minute of their life in training to try to get to that one point where the pinnacle of success. And I think that the result of your desire to be best is all laden on the investment of the hard work that you do. So I think that if you put in the hours, put in the time, and work hard, that you're going to get the reward in the end. But the question becomes, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to make those sacrifices? And it reminds me of a dear friend of mine who many years ago, his daughter was trying to become an Olympic skater. And I was like, holy cow. And she started training probably when she was 4, I believe, 4 or 5. And she skated every day. And it got to the point where she was in high school, and she would break up her coaching, her skating time, with 20 to 30-minute lessons for high school, which I thought, wow, she's potentially going to become an Olympic skater. She was fantastic. I saw her in competition. She was incredible at what she did. She was really, really good. But a freak thing happened. She sustained a leg injury, a knee injury, and that was it. Her career was over. But not only was her career over, but she didn't have a backup plan. She didn't have a plan B. She desired so strongly to be the best at what she did, and she was working so hard that she forgot to seal up things in the bank. So once again, I'm not saying that desire to be the best at what you do is a bad thing, but what I am saying is if you desire to be the best at something, that's great. but always take into consideration that if you don't quit and you push forward, you should also have a plan B. Because I think it is important, right? To know what you need to do in order to make things happen. And this leads me to number three, helping others. All right. Truth is, many people are motivated by service, right? They're motivated to help others, but you need to give back more than you think. When I think of this, I think of Bill and Melinda Gates. I think of Warren Buffett and the amount that they put forth for philanthropy. Now, at AgileDad, we proudly give to whatever causes we can. 10% of every penny that we make goes back to a charitable cause at minimum. In many cases, it's closer to 20%, which is really amazing because many companies don't do that. But we try really hard to give back, and we try to find specific needs that help empower women in science and technology, or things that empower individuals who wouldn't be given the same chance to be given a chance to look upon people who are passed over. We do a lot with the military to help empower them as they transition out of a military career into a professional career. There's just so many opportunities. And I think that we all need to pledge to give back something. As part of our church, we're a people of faith, and as part of our church, we tithe. We give 10% of our income to the church to use for charitable causes. On top of that 10%, we also spend one day a month where we fast for at least 2 meals. And we take the money that we saved from fasting and donate it to a cause where that money can be provided for people who are hungry. So, and that's whether you're a member of our church or not, it doesn't matter. But I think that these are the right things that you should do to channel your energy. If you channel your energy around doing something good and positive, it's going to lead to you having more. When you give of yourself, that's when the windows of heaven are opened and the blessings pour down more than you could possibly imagine. But you need to find a way to give away to get more. I know that sounds crazy, but that's just the way it is. Number four is probably the one that I like the least on this entire list. It talks about power and fame. And this group of people is just motivated. And I think of two different sets of people when I think of power and fame. I think of politicians and I think of actors and actresses. And the Hollywood elites, or the people who are in politics, and when all they want to do is have their name, and when all they want to do is be in the spotlight, when all they want to do is constantly be the person in charge. And I can't say how many times I've said, how does a politician who only makes such a small amount of money have a multi-million-dollar home and armed guards around him all the time? It blew my mind. Or how does someone who works long hours on a set for a few weeks and make millions of dollars, where some people like teachers work all their life and may acquire $1 million? It blows my mind to see the disparity here, where there are some people that I remember from my past that I believe should have been famous. One particular teacher comes to mind that I had in high school. His name was Morris Block, and he passed away. But he was fantastic at what he did. And he put his heart and soul into every single thing that he did. And he invested in the students that invested in themselves. And I think that that's an important thing. He didn't do it for power. He didn't do it for fame. He did it for love. And I think that that's probably even a stronger driving factor than power and fame. Uh, Next is recognition, and this is a simple one. You know, I see people who think of recognition at the highest level, and that may not be where I'm going for here. Um, I talked about the perfect bank account a few weeks ago, where a child wanted to have recognition from his father, and he saved money and worked hard so that he could buy an hour of his father's time so that he could be recognized and spend time with him. That's the type of recognition I'm talking about, where sometimes people just want to know they're doing good. Sometimes people just want to know that you care. And I think it's important for us to get to a point where we're not trying to be recognized for all the positive contributions we did and constantly in the spotlight, but we're recognized because we should be, because we're doing what's right. And I think that if you deserve to be recognized, you eventually will be recognized. But you have to understand that, whether you're the leader of the greatest technology company in the world, or whether you're, poor living in a third world habitat in the Philippines, right? Those people both deserve equal recognition. One for building an empire of giving back, and the other for being without and still living the best possible life they could. And I think that sometimes we overlook the latter recognition. The last one is my favorite of the bunch, and this is the passion. And I think that this is what warms my heart, that if we're passionate about what we do and we thrive on that fire inside of us, that passion, that ignite, that ignition, right? That's going to help us to really see where we should be going and what we could be doing with our lives. And it's going to force us to introspect so that we can see where we are. And it's going to make us realize the things that we're passionate about and how they contribute to the greater good. Um, and, I often say that if you're passionate about something, it should be to the point where you're willing to sacrifice life and limb, where you're willing to sacrifice sleep and food for it. You need to dig in. In the words of Dave Ramsey, somebody who I strongly admire, he says, if you want to get out of debt, it's beans and rice and beans, right? Sometimes you need to lower your standard and your quality of life in order to get a better quality of life now, later, right? Do what you have to do now to live life later. And I think that that's the way we need to be. And I guess the big thing overarching all of this is while these are factors that certainly motivate most people, I want to extend a challenge. And my challenge is I want to know what motivates you. And I want you to think a little deeper. I don't want it to just be, success in your career. While that's good, that's great. I want it to be something more. I want you to ask yourself, what drives me to believe that I can be the best person that I can be? In Polk County, Florida, they have a sheriff named Grady Judd. And I was just watching some videos by him this morning where he does these press conferences anytime something happens in a county, whether it's an arrest or a sting or something's gone wrong or there's an internal affairs event. He holds these awesome press conferences. And he's very descriptive and he's an amazing storyteller. But the one thing the one character trait, the one charismatic thing that always draws me to him is that you can tell how much he loves what he does and how much he loves the people in this county and how he will do anything in his power to help serve the greater good. And, I think it's time for us to look at what motivates us and do a self evaluation and ask, are those the real things that motivate us? If we're motivated by money and wealth, we should ask the question, why? Why does that motivate us? Is that really the right thing? Is money and rewards the way that we're trying to go? Is that what we want to motivate us? Is that what we want to drive us? If it's our desire to be the best at what we do, what actions have we taken? Are we going in and doing all the planning and all the training that's necessary in order to do that? And then when we get there, what are we going to do with it, right? That's the question. Do we strive to help others? Do we uplift others? Do we find time to go outside of our comfort zone and do good things for good people? If we're driven by power and fame, how are we leveraging that power and fame to the greater good? How are we setting an example for others? And how are we being a rock or a pillar in our society? If we're doing it for recognition, are we actually being recognized or are we doing it for false recognition? Where are we? And most importantly, what is that fire inside of us, that passion that's driving us to do what we need to do? And I think that if we can channel in any of those or all of those, that it's going to help us be a bigger people. It's going to help us be a better people. It's going to help us ignite what's inside of us. And it's going to help us really understand motivation better so that we can have a better take on life. Well, I know it was a little long, but I hope you enjoyed it. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Tune in next week. We're going to have a lot of good podcast episodes next week. We've got some exciting content. But, the big thing for this week is, message for me is I just want you to have an amazing weekend. Find a way to uplift someone, find a way to make the world a better place. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.